And it's time to welcome in the Hall of Fame owner and general manager, brought to you by Ford, built for Texas, built for you. Good morning, Jerry. How are you?
Hey, good morning and happy birthday, Sean.
Oh,
how's it feel to become of age?
hey, man.
You can quit being illegal.
You know, I've sat here for 3 hours waiting for my coworkers to tell me happy birthday, and it has to come from the Hall of Famer, Jerry Jones. That made it even sweeter, so thank you, Jerry.
Listen, there's insensitivity everywhere, but not here. Happy birthday, and good morning, RJ, you and Bobby.
Oh, good morning, Jerry.
Jerry, any age 42 advice?
Hey, live it like there's no tomorrow. Every day, all the way, every day.
Jerry, just give us, thank you, by the way. Give us your game recap against Carolina and the way you thought things went.
Well, I thought that our team was just overall as efficient as I've seen them play, and candidly, it called for that. Carolina had us scoped out pretty good. They knew they were going to stop the run. That was their best shot, and they were going to not give us anything in the back deep, and so we had to earn it all the way. It was actually a harder game than it looked, and I think was indicative of it when we got within a touchdown in that third quarter. And then, of course, we're able to make those big plays, those turnover-type plays that got us out. But still, it's a great atmosphere for us. We've always had such a following in the Carolinas. I can remember going to Atlanta when I first got involved with the Cowboys in the late 80s, and the crowd in Atlanta was made up so many from Carolina. And for whatever the reason, we've had a real hotbed of enthusiasm over there, and it's carried through over the years. So it was a great atmosphere, just what the doctor ordered for us. Well, I thought we saw several areas that we should be encouraged about, not the least of which we came out there in good physical shape.
Jerry Jones here on 105.3 The Fan. Jerry, I think that we've all been guilty of not talking about Deron Bland enough. Talk about his level of play, what you think his ceiling is, and what your coaches are talking about with the all-pro type season he's having.
Well, I do want to give our coaches a lot of credit. When you look at Diggs and now then Bland, the way their purpose is to get the ball. And, you often hear how difficult it is for D-backs to basically focus on catching the ball. You certainly hear on the practice field, the ball, when it gets in the air, the ball is as much the D-backs as it is the receivers. Well, from our coaching perspective, maybe it's just the Diggs's natural instinct of being a receiver on the ball when he's playing in the secondary. But it has rubbed off, if that's the case, on Bland. And, boy, he's out there to catch the ball. And you could see it, that it was mentally in his mind to take it and go to the house with it. You got to think about those kinds of things before the ball is snapped. The old adage of just before a ball is snapped or before a pitch in a baseball game, think about what you're going to do with the ball. I think that's – to me, I saw that when he made that interception. Beautiful athletic play. And then turned around, he was not to be denied. He was headed for the end zone, although he was going in the other direction when he got it, almost.
Jerry, we were discussing earlier this week amongst ourselves, trying to figure out, okay, should Deron Bland be more a part of this discussion of Defensive Player of the Year? Do you think that he should be included in those discussions in the national conversation as a guy who's in contention for Defensive Player of the Year?
Well, I think it's inordinate. It's exceptional. For all the reasons, some of which we just talked about, that he's taken those interceptions to the house. He's scoring with them, and I think that's exceptional. And I frankly think that's the kind of thing that can take you above the stats. Not that the stats aren't impressive when you've taken 6 interceptions to the house, but I think he's playing at a level that distinguishes him.
Jerry, we saw CeeDee Lamb pop up on the injury report with an ankle. I know that was a projection since it was just a walkthrough yesterday, but how is he looking for his status with this short turnaround? And in general, how are you guys looking with injuries heading into this game against Washington?
We'll see, because the short week, that would be the reason for even discussing it almost. It's in good shape, but the short week, you've got to see how he does today and tomorrow. But right now, I would give him a thumbs up.
Jerry Jones joined us here at 105 through the Fan. All right, the Jimmy Ring of Honor news was huge on Sunday. A lot of Cowboy fans obviously loved that. What changed in recent months that made you decide to do this now?
Well, I think that I saw a little of the edge that was there by not putting him in when we put DeMarcus Ware in, and I thought, well, I didn't intend for this. So that, number one, that motivated me. Jimmy, for me, was always after he left the Cowboys, and we enjoyed the kinds of success that we had with his involvement in those early 90s. He was always there for the Ring of Honor. Now, he only coached here 5 years, which makes it that much more exceptional. Tom Landry was here 29 years. He's the only other coach in the Ring of Honor, and I think it's particularly special. We have our own story. It's really fraud. I really have to. I'm amazed at how some of the personal nuances of this thing has become a little bit of the story, but it was really born of sheer, very fortunate situation for me and him to be end up in that spot, and then to turn around and have Troy Aikman there with the first pick in the draft, and have the ability to make that Herschel Walker trade that gave us all those picks early, and then to maximize that. We were operating at a fever pitch. Feelings were on edge, but not hard. We worked together closely every day about every football decision relative to personnel. The structure required that then, because you didn't have a salary cap. So all of those things are manifest, come to my mind. But more important thing, I've known Jimmy since, he had to be about 18 or 19 when he came to the University of Arkansas. I'd already been there a year. So he's always motivated me when we got together to be here, and he certainly deserves to be recognized. Tex Schramm told me, he said, make the Ring of Honor about someone who really impacted the direction of the franchise, not just the best player, or in his case, the best coach, but someone that impacted the direction of the franchise. So he fit that bill in my mind when I started making the call on the Ring of Honor. When Tex left, he fit that bill immediately at the end of his 5 years.
Jerry Jones here on The Fan. Jerry, when did you actually make the decision? When did you actually decide that you were going to do this?
As I was during DeMarcus Ware's time this year when we put him in the ring, I didn't want to do it last week because we were recognizing our basic Medal of Honor and basically representing our service people. And I didn't want to do anything, particularly since we're so committed and excited about what we're doing with the Medal of Honor recipients. And so I didn't want to get that confused there. That's the reason we made that announcement over Charlotte, and that's the reason we're going to do this thing. When Aikman's and Buck are here on Monday, we're going to make it that day. And we can do that. There's nothing magic about when or how or time advance notice we have about the Ring of Honor, and so this was a perfect time.
Jerry, was a lot of this jump started for you also with that meeting that you guys were able to have in LA at SoFi Stadium? We all saw you guys had a chance to talk there. Was that a big jumping off point for you guys?
Not really, and I say that not because we were able to have a good visit there on the sideline. We have never had a bad visit, Jimmy and I. People are amazed to hear that.
Yeah.
We were on the same page all the way through, and about every facet of this thing. And so we've always really, I have enjoyed my time with him in any part of the conversations. So that you say, well, what then? Well, really, we got together because we had something unique for us in our personal relationship, and we had something unique for us when we split. And both of them are in the same territory, but boy, getting to be a part of what we did there for 5 years and the impact it had on our lives and hopefully sports shouldn't be dismissed, and that's why he's in the Ring of Honor.
Jerry Jones here on Sean, RJ, and Bobby, 105 through the fan. Jerry, we were talking about this yesterday, and RJ always brings it up, that people forget that you actually played at Arkansas. So I think because this is a theory, you can flush it if you want. I think because of your genius and legacy as a businessman, some of that football knowledge or history gets forgotten. Is that fair? And is that something that kind of eats away at you a little bit, like not being thought of more as a football guy versus this brilliant billionaire businessman?
Well, first of all, you're too complimentary there, but I guess I'll let you get away with it this morning. But the point is that football was hard. I'm a baseball player by heart. Because I had to call on myself to play football, and consequently, the things you get playing football, everybody wants to quit. I wanted to quit more than anybody, but you just keep going. And when I was a senior, we played on a national championship team. We weren't expected to be that good coming into the season. We went down and played the number one team in the nation, the Texas Longhorns. And Darrell Royal went for two. Ernie Coy had the ball, get him in the hands, and he dropped it, and we won. We had beaten the number one team in the nation. We'd struggled kind of going into those 4 first games. It changed my life. It changed everybody's life. When we got back to Little Fayetteville, Arkansas, I was really, without exaggeration, not the same again. A lot of other kids were the same way. It changed, and there's no question that experience caused me to be a part of the Dallas Cowboys in my future.
Jerry, if you've had to go back over the last 30 or so years with the Jimmy situation, what would you have changed of how things went?
Well, that's I can't. Really, I can't. I just don't have it to answer because we were cutting and shooting so much, and everything was so real. There were real financial challenges back there in 1989. The Cowboys were losing $1 million cash a month. And I was real concerned. I bought part of the Cowboys that had been foreclosed on. I bought it from the government. And there were no teams making money. I'm not for sure there was one in sports, even the Yankees, but certainly not in pro football. And so I didn't know if, frankly, there was a lot of me that didn't know if there was going to be maybe a next year, but maybe not years in the future. Everything was so intense. And I needed to ride with somebody that I could be comfortable with in terms of Jimmy and the head coach, and I was. It had everything to do with why he was the coach. And when I lived to tell about it on a personal basis, after literally fearing when I actually was fortunate enough to get through that, I had lost my tolerance for the kinds of things that you should tolerate in a relationship for the better good of what y'all are good at together. And so I lost that tolerance. I didn't have the give that possibly you could have had. And consequently, we ended up going different ways. Had I not had that intensity, that scare, that I called it little scars, great scars, had I not had that, I probably wouldn't have lost my tolerance for some of the ambiguity that goes in every relationship. But again, I want to emphasize, he and I never had a really contentious meeting, ever. And I knew Jimmy a long time.
And, Jerry, don't you think it could be argued if you were an owner for 10 or 15 years, then it may have lasted longer. You came in, you guys won pretty quick, and maybe it's like, hey, maybe this isn't so difficult, and the egos kind of grew or got involved earlier versus whether it would have been later. Is that fair?
Well, let me say this without not responding to your question. My offices, I wasn't an owner that was in another part of town or another city or what have you. Mine and Jimmy's office were 30, 40 feet away. We saw each other every day, and we discussed everything. And so my point is that you had to, because it was a little thing. This is pro football. It was a financial element. And so you couldn't do anything unless you wrote a check. And so you really had to get in and have either-or types of decisions from the get-go. And so my point is that those were intense, highly intense times. And so you add all of that in. I was so proud, though, to get to be a part of the NFL. I couldn't believe that getting to be a part of the Cowboys. I had gotten a lot of criticism for changing Coach Landry, the great coach only coach the Cowboys ever had. So I'd gotten a lot of real criticism, and I understood it. And the fact that I was getting to be a part of the NFL and the Cowboys made that just bounce off. But those were things that just added to it. Jimmy was very supportive of that during that time. I know I had some good friends here in Dallas at the time, and I'd make speaking engagements, and they'd say, you know, Jerry, Jean is so pretty. My wife said, you should take her with you on those speaking engagements. You'll get a better reception. Well, boy, I pulled out every trick I could to get a smile and get a better reception during those years. And, of course, we'd won one football game, and it looked like we were off base from almost from the get-go. But the bottom line, the Herschel Walker trade came along. It was magnificent for us. We had a lot of collateral. A lot of currency with draft picks. We were able to bring in some players on top of some good ones we had. We had Troy. We got to draft sitting right there, very first draft, very first personnel decision. We got to draft Troy Aikman. Now, you want to be a success in the NFL? Have your first pick be Troy Aikman. And that had everything to do with our success. We had some great players really on the Cowboys. Michael Irvin's one of them. He had come from Miami where Jimmy had coached, but he had been here 2 years. So we had some really great players. Most of all, not most of all, but certainly important of all, was Jimmy's ability to motivate, ability to coach. And just Jimmy could have been anything in the world he wanted to be. He could have been a great doctor, business guy. He's a member of, what is it, the Genius Club?
Mensa.
Well, really is. My old coach, Coach Broyles said, Jones, I've recruited 2 genius IQs, and you sure as hell aren't one of them.
Jerry, I know you're all over.
For Jimmy Johnson and Barry Switzer that are official geniuses.
Jerry, I know you're a superstitious guy. I was at the DeMarcus Ware one with the great Bennett Glazer. I'll be there at the Jimmy one for the induction in the Ring of Honor. Do you believe in curses, though? Do you believe you have lifted the Jimmy curse with this?
Well, I will believe in anything that helps. if you saw all the combinations of good luck ways that I've carried with me over the years and different things I've done I'm a superstitious guy, and so I guess I must believe in that as well. But candidly, I certainly would have wanted to win more games than we've had a chance to be a part of with the Cowboys. But let me just say this, without sounding in any way the way I don't want to sound, I can't believe I've gotten to be a part of the pluses we've gotten to be a part of. I just can't believe it. And certainly the things that you see about the sport, the league, the interest, and then to have gotten to be a part of this great franchise all these years, I just don't have any negative in me when I look over at Jimmy.
Jerry, you got anything special, like always, planned for Thanksgiving with what you guys are doing out there?
Well, we, of course, it's all around the game, and that's just what it is. It's around the game, and it's a very exciting time because apart from playing the game, we get to point the attention to the Salvation Army. And of all of the people that we could have joined with this year to kick off the Red Kettle campaign, Reba McEntire is one of the very greatest in the spirit of what we're trying to say with our support of the Salvation Army. And, that halftime will go to possibly as many as 75 million people. And we'll talk about putting $1 in that red kettle. And that has made a dramatic impact, I would say, right there with the most important thing that I've had a chance to be a part of. My daughter Charlotte, family have been involved since the get-go for 30 years. And incrementally, the Salvation Army will tell you, in that period of time, it's incrementally raised the money in the red kettle by over $4 billion.
Wow.
In the last 25 years or so that it's been involved. I remember the day that we were kicking the first one off, and I lost my father that day. And have always had a positive approach to that thought. And so Thanksgiving Day, mainly because of the game and the Salvation Army, is my favorite day, I think.
Absolute gold. Thank you so much for reminiscing and everything else, Jerry. We appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll talk again next week.
Man, it's great to be on you, and I agree with you. Let's give thanks.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, buddy.
Thank you, brother. Jerry Jones, my only friend.